So we can solve equations of this form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, by using a few ways. Factorization, completing the square, and using the quadratic formula. And by solving this, I mean to find out what x is, what x could be, so that it would equal 0. What we can have is we can solve this equation, x squared plus 5x minus 6 is equal to 0. We're going to do this by factorization. So I'm going to factorize this, which is going to be x
plus 6, x minus 1, and that's equal to 0.
So we've got this number times this number is 0. So whenever we have two numbers that times together to give 0, that means both numbers must be 0.
So both numbers is 0.
Or we have just one number is 0. So just
1, 0.
So because we've got two different numbers here, x plus 6 and x minus 1, there must be different numbers. So one of these numbers will be 0. So our first case is if this number is 0, so we've got x plus 6 is 0. Rearrange it, then we have x must be minus 6. We take away 6 from both sides, x must be minus 6. The other case is if we have this number is 0, we've got x minus 1 is 0. Add 1 to both sides, we have x is 1. And we've solved it. Our answer is x is equal to minus 6 or x is equal to 1. This is our answer. Okay, so now we've got this slightly harder. 4a squared minus 5a minus 6 is equal to 0. We're going to solve this by factorization. So I'm going to factorize this. Okay. And I've done this earlier, so I know the answer is
a minus 2, 4a plus 3.
Okay, so again, one of these numbers must be 0. Let's start with this one, our first case. We've got a minus 2 must be 0. So add 2 to both sides. We've got a must be 2. That's one case. Our second case is if 4a plus 3 is 0. So 4a is equal to minus 3 from both sides. Then divided by 4 on both sides. So a must be minus 3 quarters. So our answer is a is 2 or a is minus 3 quarters. Okay, so we can also solve quadratic equations by completing the square. So we've got x squared plus 10x minus 11 is equal to 0. So if we want to complete the square, we're going to do same as last time. X squared plus 10x, going to leave a space there, minus 11 is equal to 0. So we're going to halve this number. This becomes 5. Then we're going to square it and add it back on, plus 25. And because we've added 25, to keep it the same, we need to minus 25 here. Now we've got x squared plus 10x plus 25, and we know that will be factorized. Minus 11 minus 25, that's minus 36. And all this is equal to 0. Right, now we can factorize this into our perfect square, which we know is x plus this number there, which you've halved, is a positive 5, plus 5 squared, and that minus 36. And that's equal to 0. Okay, so we had x plus 5 squared minus 36 is equal to 0. So now what we're going to do is you're going to move this number here over to the other side. So we're going to have x plus 5 squared equals, so plus 36 on both sides, equals 36. So now we're left with x plus 5 squared is 36. So some number squared is 36. Now if we take the square root of these numbers, so we square root that, and we'll square root that. On this side we're left with just x plus 5. And on this side, square root of 36 is 6. We can have 6 times 6 is 36. But we can also have negative 6 times negative 6 is 36. So we must have a plus or minus sign here. Because there are two answers, positive 6 and there's negative 6. Now we can solve for x. Take away 5 from both sides, we'll be left with x is equal to positive or negative 6 minus 5. And this is equal to, a better way of writing it is having the negative 5 first, negative 5 plus or minus 6. So you can leave your answer like that, but you can also say, well, x is equal to minus 5 plus 6, so minus 5 plus 6, which is 1, or x is equal to minus 5 minus 6, which is minus 11. So both of these answers are fine. So now we've got this one, 2x squared plus 9x minus 3. And first thing, as we always do when we complete the square, is we need to make this coefficient of x squared 1. So we divide by 2. So we divide by 2 on both sides. So x squared plus 9 over 2x minus 3 over 2 is equal to 0 over 2, which is just 0. So now, again, we can rewrite our expression or equation. X squared plus 9 over 2x, leave a space there, minus 3 over 2 equal 0. So x squared plus 9 over 2x, and half this, so half this.
We get 9 over 4, and then we square it. So we plus 9 over 4 squared.
Because we've plus this, we need to take it away. Take away 9 over 4 squared.
This will leave us with x squared plus 9 over 2x plus 81 over 16.
Which we can factorize, minus, put this in your calculator, and you will get 105 over 16, and that's equal to 0. And then we can factorize this into our perfect square. So then we can factorize this into our perfect square, which was x plus half of this number, so it's half of this, plus half of 9 over 2, which is 9 over 4, squared. Then we've got minus 105 over 16, now we want to move this 105 over 16 onto this side. So we're going to add 105 over 16 to both sides. So we're going to have x plus 9 over 4 squared is equal to 105 over 16. So now we've got x plus 9 over 4 squared is equal to 105 over 16. So some number squared is this answer here. So let's square root it. So square root this, and the square root this. That leaves us with x plus 9 over 4 is equal to square root of this, which we can just leave as that. So, and don't forget the plus or minus. So now we can solve for x. So we can take away 9 over 4 from both sides. So x is equal to minus 9 over 4 plus or minus the square root of 105 over 16. So this will be equal to 9 plus or minus square root of 105 all over 4, because the square root of 16 is 4, so we can combine the two fractions. And that's your answer. You don't have to go further, but you can say x is equal to minus 9 plus square root of 105 over 4, or minus 9 minus 105 square rooted over 4. But I will just leave it as this. So this is correct. So lastly, you can use this quadratic formula to solve any equation of this form. Any equation. So the quadratic formula is
x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. All this is over 2 lots of a.
So a is obviously your coefficient of x squared, b is your coefficient of x, and c is your constant, your number.
For example, if we do 4a squared minus 5a minus 6 is equal to 0.
So let's solve this equation. I would always advise you to write out your a's, your b's and your c's first. So a, we can see is equal to 4, or b is equal to not 5, but it's negative 5. And c is negative 6. It's really important you don't forget these negatives. So to solve for x, all we need to do is x is equal to minus b, so negative b. Our b is already negative 5, so negative 5. So if I write out negative 5 plus or minus b squared, so minus 5 squared, minus 5 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is minus 6. And all this is over 2 lots of a, so 2 times 4, which is 8. So then if you put this into your calculator, but you can't put plus and minus together, so you got to do it separately. So put plus first and then do the minus after to get two different answers. So if I do plus first, ignoring the minus, I'll get x is equal to 2. Then if I do the minus, I'll get x is equal to minus 3/4.